We are recording.
Fantastic. First item on the agenda is the roll call. So Kelly Strickland, myself, present. Alex Zacharias, not with us today. Alderman Lynn Gerlach.
I'm here.
Chuck Yang.
Here.
And Kent Hutchison.
Present.
Beth Lemke.
Present.
Matt Vanden Boomen.
Here.
And our new liaison, Lizelle Peguera Almonte.
Here.
Welcome.
Hi. Just taking my dog out.
Multitasking. All right. Everyone had a chance to review the agenda. May I get a motion to approve the agenda or otherwise?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any dissent or abstentions? Great. Moving on to the minutes. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the April 28th meeting. May I get a motion to approve or otherwise?
Move to
Motion to
approve.
approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any dissension or abstention? Great. Moving on to regular business. The first item is consideration with possible action to select finalists for the Paint in the Parks Park Shelter project. Laura, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So we had sent out a call for the Paint in the Parks mural project as part of our use of community development block grant funds that we have to spend before November. We had received over 40, we'd received 46 submissions from 26 artists, I believe. 40 something, 26 artists, which is a fantastic turnout. I've been coordinating with Corey from Parks Department on placement of the pieces. We haven't selected the final placements yet, but staff will be handling the placement. Really, your guys' goal this morning is to select the finalists, which I had asked ahead of time for you all to send in your 10 plus your kind of 15 total, top 10 selections plus like 5 backups or supplemental ones for that backside, which all of you had done, so thank you. And it really helped to narrow it down, at least by half. So we aren't going to be dealing with all 40 this morning. Based on the input you had given me earlier. But in the agenda packet so what I would like us to figure out first.
Laura, Parks Department weighed in on these as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Dan gave me his selections as well, which were included in the
Great.
Scoring and ranking to narrow it down to where we're at this morning.
Cool, thank you.
And Dan is here as well, thankfully, so he can help provide some insight too as we start picking at these a little bit more. In the agenda packet, I had listed out materials budget. So there's 5 different budgets in that packet. With the fun unknowns of materials and shortages of materials right now, I'm not incredibly confident that we will be able to get the proper plywood for these panels. So I've listed out several budgets for using plywood materials to make these murals, and then also aluminum. So there's a difference in cost between the plywood and the aluminum, but a safe estimate for what our block grant dollars will cover is about 15 panels, which is what we need to keep in mind when we are selecting our finalists, because some of the pieces, even though it's one mural, some of them might be requesting you to use more panels, which I've contacted most of the artists, and they've given me the okay. Majority of them have given me the okay. If we're short on materials, they're willing to scale it back. But we also have a lot of artists here today, so at a certain point, I would like to open up the floor to gather any input from them as well. Does anyone have any questions before I bring up all of the submissions? Kelly, you're muted.
Thanks. So to clarify, we're looking at those that ranked, that we got some consensus on in our rankings, and that we're going to look at that in comparison to budget numbers based on material expenses. And then we're going to open the floor to consider input from the artists. Do I have sort of an overall arch for?
Yeah, I guess,
Okay.
is that the order we would like? Otherwise, would we prefer to sort out the budget first? That way we know how many we're working with, then review them.
I guess my impression was that the budget might be impacted by supply input. Did I misunderstand that?
Yes, so plywood, the plywood that we're looking at, it's a resin exterior plywood, and it's in supply in some spaces that I look at, but also severely out of stock in others. So since we have to get these out the door before November, I'm slightly nervous that they will not be in stock again. But with that being said, comparing the materials, 15 is a safe number. So I would say.
So are we entertaining the notion that we're using aluminum?
Is the commission interested in that? Otherwise, I would be okay just going with the plywood option, because if for some, like after the meeting, I go to order, okay, we've selected 15. I'm going to order 15. Plywood's out of stock. I can still order 15 aluminum and we'll still fit within that budget.
Very good. But the preference is plywood. Thank you. That clarifies.
Yeah. So are we good?
Sounds good to me, Laura. Yep.
Okay. We're selecting 10 with a runner-up 5.
Yep.
Okay. I will bring up all of the submissions so you guys can see, and then show how it divvied out after our scores were tabulated. Okay. Are y'all seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So these were all of the submissions we had received. Incredible variety of artwork, incredible variety of artists from all across the U.S. And clearly a lot of creativity and thought went into all of these. Based off of the scores that I had received from all of you, we were able to narrow it down to these 20, I believe. But there was definitely a top 10 that came out, and then 2 tiers below. So the top 10, it was clearly a score break as far as where your points came out. The first tier, all of them were tied. So I didn't break any of those up to first, second, third, that type of thing. So there's a second tier, a first tier, and then a lower tier where the scores also lined up, but they were very close in tier 1 and tier 2. So I put it in a slightly, hopefully more visually organized manner. So the column on the left is the 1st through 10. We had Frisbee, Return of Pelican, Do We See Ourselves in Each Other, number 1, Music is Life, Flight Pattern, Nocturnal Nature, Dance of the Dragonfly, Nightly Blossoms, American Robin, and then Seasons, Fall Mandala and Winter Mandala. Those were the top 10 from your scores that I'd received. The first tier was close behind, but these are where the scores really started to all kind of tie together. I've organized them so even though they're tied, it's slightly tiered. So kind of going from top to bottom is how those broke out. And then tier 2 is kind of the runner-ups. Tier 1 contains 7, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I don't know. There's also the other issues, not issues, but questions of certain pieces in tier 1. The artist who created those is already in the top 10. So I don't know if you have a preference for trying to divvy up that opportunity, or if you're okay, since it's a quality design, providing that artist with additional opportunities. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I'm really thankful of you guys submitting those scores ahead of time, because we were able to narrow it down by half, which is a bit more manageable based off of your input earlier. So any questions?
You did a great job, Laura. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think these are fantastic finalists. I would be in favor of selecting one per artist. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, just to get more representation on our lineup. So that would leave more space there in the first tier. That would be my suggestion.
I would concur with that.
I also agree with that.
I agree.
Hi. Laura, are some of these 1 panel and some of them 3 panel?
Yes. Specifically in the top 10, A1, T2, and F1 were pitched as multiple panels. I had touched base with the artist beforehand. Materials are short, and they were all open to downsizing to 1 panel if needed. So they're okay with that.
Laura, wasn't F1 just 1 panel cut in half to a 4x4?
Yes. That was 1 panel cut in half, but the artist, I don't know if the artist is in our meeting this morning. Let me see. I know we have several artists here. Speaking with that artist, they would like it, like 1 panel split in 2, so basically 2 4x4 squares. But they were also open to just having it all on 1 panel displayed. And since none of our other designs that were in the top tier also kind of request that 4x4 format, I would just chalk F1 as 1 complete panel, and then we can cut it into, and then display that either at 1 park or 2.
So Laura, does the committee then need to, for example, when you look at T2, we've got 3 panels there. Is the board going to be choosing which panel to pick out of the 3? Or is that up to the artist?
No, what would happen is, so they would just condense all 3 panels to be on one.
One? Okay.
Yep. So you're not going to get like, oh, we're only going to get the left section of
Right.
this piece. You'll still get the whole piece. It'll just be on one panel.
Same thing with A1. That would be
Same
one
thing with
panel.
A1. Although A1, the artist had pitched it as either all 3 of those segments could be individual, like they were fine just having one segment from that total displayed, or they were open to having all 3 of them displayed on one. Majority of you had selected A1, I believe, with all 3 in mind.
Laura, when I looked at A1, I thought because those look like they're very intricate pieces, that I'm not sure if they were condensed, if they would go well on a 4x8. So I looked at them all as separate pieces.
Yep, and you were the only one who had selected a specific one out of the group, which I'm fine if you guys want to get deep and sweaty in divvying out A1, we can do that.
I'm not particularly concerned about that. However, if the artist for either of those paneled options, any of those are here and want to speak to them, I think this might be an appropriate time as we pare down, because if we're all in agreement that we need to get rid of one of those T's, T3 or T2, and then let somebody else enter that first tier, this might be a good time to open up the floor.
So can I get a motion to open up the floor to hear from the artists?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any dissensions or abstentions? All right. I actually cannot see the full gallery of attendees with the PowerPoint up. So
I will stop. Do you want me to stop sharing for now?
unless we can use the raise hand function or something like that, and someone else can call on them. I can't.
Looking at the gallery, I don't see the artists for either of the T pieces or A. But I do see the artist for F1, which was a split piece, but I think we had already decided that that would just be on one. Correct.
Yeah.
So since neither of the artists for A or T are present, are we okay just condensing those both to one? Wait a minute,
I'm
that's
okay
not
with
what
that.
we were deciding. We were deciding we were deciding which piece to remove from the top 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea of, having one per artist so that you can offer the public more variety. So I thought that was a good call. I'll be right back.
Okay, Laura, do you have in mind, it seems like maybe this is not the moment then to hear from artists on the floor, if those were the artists we were seeking to hear from?
Correct. But I think since the floor is open, there's a lot of artists present that are in the tier 1 and tier 2 category. So I think it would be nice to hear from them, since we are going to be taking some out from the top 10 to make space for either of the tier 1 or tier 2 pieces. So I don't think we need to close the floor just yet. I think we can open it up to any artist within within either the 1st through 10, Tier 1 or Tier 2, to hear their input on their piece, thoughts, anything of that sort. When people do speak, if they can say their first and last name and list their address, that would be great.
Also, Laura, you may want to limit how much time.
Oh yeah, I don't do that a whole lot. I'll keep an eye on the clock. Council does 3 minutes. So I will keep a watch.
That's great.
I see Beth's hand.
So my name is Beth Metza. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I live at 218 Lau Street, and I have one, I believe, from Tier 2, which is the caterpillar and the turtle. And in response to the number of pieces of plywood, I was considering or just assuming that I would buy a second piece. I feel like my piece would do better halves since it's going to be a freestanding mural in a park. So I think it would be a little bit better to be more eye-catching if it did maintain the size that it was. And I was just thinking that if you provided the vendor and cost, I could buy that extra piece with my own money.
Thank you, Beth. That's really good to know. For those who, I know the naming is slightly confusing, but it helps with organization of the pieces. Beth is talking about the Old Preble Park turtle and caterpillar, which it was different since they are looking to specifically place it at Old Preble Park, which does not have a park shelter. So they are proposing this interactive photo booth style piece created through the neighborhood association. I sent it over to Corey, and Corey said they were on board with it. They'll need to get specs for where they're planning on installing it ahead of time to make sure that that's approved through Parks Department. But Corey was open to having this alternative mural as an option since there is no shelter at that park.
And if I can speak one more time and just get my questions out of the way. I'm not really familiar with the aluminum, so I would prefer the plywood, as I was going to have someone cut it for me and cut a circular hole in the face of the caterpillar and turtle. And I'm not sure how easy that is to do in aluminum. So that was one thought. And the last thing is I was going to talk with Corey at the parks because I did get pricing for the installation of 4 or 5 posts to hold it up. So it's not really freestanding. It is attached and posted in the ground. And the one thought that I also needed to talk with Corey about is, does it need to be concreted in, or can it just be a post hole dug and then the dirt re-put in there? So those are my questions for today.
Dan, I'm not sure if you can provide a little more insight. I'm guessing we would want it fixed into concrete, correct?
Yeah, I think the weight of it is probably going to require that it be in concrete. But I do have a question for you in regards to that design. So with each piece of paneling, is each panel like a quarter of the design? So for example, you have the turtle and the caterpillar. Are those independent designs, or is that together on the sheets of panel?
So they are half a piece of plywood and they are back to back. So there is a hole which you might not see the face of the caterpillar. And then on the back side, I was going to paint the turtles with the saying, in a neighborhood where you can be anything, be kind. So it would be artistic on both sides and interactive for photos, whichever side you were on. So I wanted to have 2 pieces of plywood cut in half. So there would be 4 pieces, 4 by 4x4. And I did have it kind of as a freestanding prototype that I sent in. So it would maybe be a little bit accordion styled, not just flat.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is this the piece, Beth, that that the neighbors are going to paint the posts? Are those
Yeah,
posts attached
I
to the
was-
street?
Right. The posts, and even if I can get some neighborhood kids, I wanted to have on the Caterpillar side, children from the neighborhood handprints, how you can make that into a butterfly. Along the bottom of the Caterpillar side, little green footprints like standing upright for grass or flowers. So yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
While the floor is open, are there other artists in attendance who would like to share thoughts or questions?
I mean, I have opinions about which out of the T's, the T2s, that which one I would prefer to see, but I don't know if that matters. If you guys have to eliminate one, I'm saying.
I think we are allowing comments on
Your
pieces
own.
that, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
From any one of the.
All right, going on. Oh, yeah, Beth.
And then I am at work, so since I did answer the questions, I'm more than willing to stay on. But if you guys then want to further discuss without me, is that okay if I sign off? Or do you think it's relevant that I stay?
No, that's okay, Beth. Thank you.
It is okay. Thank you.
Thanks for joining
the
us.
opportunity. Okay. Bye-bye.
I'll be in touch, Beth.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
I have another question. If I were interested in
Please state your
having the
name
artwork
and address.
printed, and then so if you guys are supplying the MDO board or whatever you're using, or aluminum.
Kirk, if we could just pause for 1 second, could you state your name and address?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Well, my name is Kirk Cease. I live in the Baltimore, Maryland area. I have a lot of family in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Cudahy, Stoughton. So actually, I was just there last week. So I'm really kind of part of my heart's in Wisconsin. My wife's family lives there. Would I be able to have it printed on vinyl and then show up in Wisconsin and install it that way? Or does it have to be hand painted? That's my question.
Kirk, what piece is yours? Which one of these is yours?
I'm sorry, it's see ourselves in each other. Is that L1 or L2? Yeah.
L2, okay. Thank you.
I'll speak to that from my perspective. I was hoping that these would be painted murals, that I think that'd be preferred. However, if you're coming from out of town, I could see how that'd be difficult. So I think we could be flexible. But that would be my suggestion, that priority would be to have them hand painted, and then we could work something out if that's not possible.
Agreed. And I think whatever vinyl provider you're looking at going with could share those specs so that we can share those with the Parks Department to make sure that they're on board with it and the material. But yeah, like Ken said, I think our preference is painted murals. But I think we're also open to alternative options.
Yeah.
Anything else from the floor? Kirk, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I guess what I would imagine, if I did have to end up, getting it printed, would the vinyl would wrap around, the edges would wrap around the entire piece, so you wouldn't have any sort of delamination or anything like that. And then it would get affixed to the structure. It's just that a lot of times I'll travel across country for murals or public sculpture, and I don't always have like time, like days set apart for one project. Like I'm usually kind of batching, and we'll drop something off in one state and then drive and install or deinstall. So I'm just curious.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor while the floor remains open?
I did have a question. I'm Jason Watts. I'm from the Chicago area. And I'm wondering about just kind of like your thoughts on the formats. So 4x8 panels, but I see some of these are horizontal versus vertical. Will they all be going to separate locations, or is there a thought about kind of the design of the way you're hanging them beside each other, knowing that some are vertical and some are horizontal?
Good question. Oh, Dan,
I
did
can
you want
probably
to?
answer that. So we would, once the artwork is selected, then we'll select the location based on the artwork. So there's some locations where the vertical, or there's some park shelters where the vertical artwork would work, and there's some locations where it won't work. So until we have the list of art pieces that are selected, we don't yet know where they're going.
Okay, got it.
I don't envision us kind of smashing them one right after the next on one wall. I think there's definitely going to be breathing room between all the pieces to let all of them shine.
And then my follow-up to that is, and so you're anticipating artists coming and painting in place. Is that the idea? So it's already up at the location, the plywood panel, substrate, and then the artist would come in and paint in place. Is that what you're anticipating?
We're looking at that. Another idea that Corey and I have been tossing around is to have a paint day at a park set up on sawhorses. I was going to say block horses, and I knew that wasn't it. Have all of these panels set up on sawhorses. But if you have a preference for painting vertically compared to horizontally, we could make sure to get that installed ahead of time.
What about the option, Laura, of the artist purchasing their own piece of plywood and then painting in their studio if they're wanting to do that? Is that kind of the direction you were headed with that question? Or because I could see that as an advantage, but also
Yeah, I was wondering, that would be logistically hard, I think, for your team to, get the panels to the artist potentially. But if there were that option to work in our own studio and then bring it up, that would be nice as well. But I think from my standpoint, just speaking for myself, I could do it either way.
And I'm
for scheduling, I think, so how it works.
Yeah. And I'm fine with that too. Working in one's own studio is definitely a higher preference, I think. So once again, I think we would just want to make sure that whatever materials you are purchasing, you're sending over ahead of time to make sure that it's in line with what we're looking for.
We have some in the car.
Can I just add one more thing? I will make every effort to, hand paint this either in Wisconsin or here in Maryland.
Thank you, Kirk. And thank you, Jason. Any other comments or questions while the floor remains open? Very good. May I have a motion to close the floor?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any abstentions or dissensions? Very good, thank you. All right, so Laura, can you carry us through the next decision here? I think, as my understanding is, we need to make a determination between T2 and T3, and then choose something from tier 1 to replace T2 or T3. And then I think we have to narrow T1 down to 5. Is that correct? Okay. So from the commission, Laura, would you like us to do just a straight up vote on T2, T3, or would we like to have a conversation about it?
I guess I would have a vote, and then if there's any strong opinions for how the vote turned out, then we can talk about it. But since you guys have already, clearly you guys like them, I don't think either one, I don't think we'll go wrong with either option. So yeah, if we just do a quick vote.
Or could I also ask the commission, since we did vote and T2 did rank higher than T3, are we all okay with accepting T2?
I agree with that statement.
Great, so T2 it is. So that bumps up O1 and F1, which means we need to take one of the designs from tier 1 to move it up into our top 10. Laura, you said that these were sort of ranked by our scores. Is it correct to interpret that T1 was in fact the next highest ranked?
Correct.
Okay, so using that same logic, yes, Lynn.
Before we vote, I have told Beth Metza that I would want to speak so that you understand a little bit about her Old Trouble Neighborhood Park, Turtle and Caterpillar, before you take a vote. So in the interest of full transparency, I am a founding board member of that neighborhood association, and I do serve as an officer on that neighborhood association. And it's also in my aldermanic district, that park. And Dan Ditchite and probably Cheryl could probably confirm this. This is a very small park. It's the only community green space in Old Preble neighborhood. We have no public schools in our neighborhood. And there's been nothing there for all of these years except a beautiful Little League ball field, which is very well used. And we also have a dilapidated playground that is in the process of being replaced. We're going to have a brand new playground soon, and there's just nothing else in that park. The neighborhood association asked Parks to do a master plan for us. We've just been given a $900,000 long-term plan. Probably take 10 to 20 years to get it all done. But as Laura pointed out, there's nothing to put this on because there's no shelter. But I just want you to understand that it's been a real long haul with this park. It's been tough. It's been contentious. Everything the neighborhood association tries to do meets with resistance. And Beth Metza was a founding board member of this association. She stepped down from the board. She's also the person who painted that butterfly near the cannery where I had my picture taken, and maybe some of you did too. And I realize this isn't a fabulous work of art, but I think that Beth's purpose here is to bring something positive into a park that has been so contentious and there's so much negativity. She's such a positive person. And, you know, she's just been really an amazing asset to this young neighborhood association, which in its less than 3 years has already been named the neighborhood of the year and the most resilient neighborhood of the year. So I would hope that you will take this seriously and realize it's in a different category and do give it some thought. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn, for that context. Dan?
Yeah, if I could just add to that, the one thing I do want to point out is, as Alder Gerlach just stated, we are installing a brand new playground as we speak. It'll be done in about the next month. If this were to be selected as a final art piece that you go with, I think a good location within the park would be right adjacent to the new playground. We're anticipating a lot of kids and neighbors coming out to the new playground to play on it. And this adds a little bit or another element of fun to that playground. Now, it's not set on that location. We haven't really reviewed that internally, but I do think that that would be an appropriate spot for it.
And I
have a question.
I just want to add a few other things. I believe Beth was open to any location as long as Parks was okay with it at that park. And then kind of following up on what Alder, I think that's a huge part of this project with having these smaller park shelter murals. Having this as like a baby step for artists who aren't necessarily professionals. I mean, clearly we have a lot of very talented professionals that have made it to the final selections, but we also have several artists who don't necessarily consider themselves public artists, which I think is a really valuable component of this project, is to create that stepping stone to get artists to kind of dip their toe in public art, and maybe this is the beginning of their mural career, and a year from now we'll be talking with them about doing a giant mural on the side. So yeah, I think like Lynn said, don't discount these smaller ones necessarily.
I have a question for you. Since this is part of the neighborhood association, have y'all considered the mini grants or those other grants that are eligible for neighborhood associations to apply for to fund this project?
We every year we apply for mini grants, and this year we applied for a grant to have our branded street signs continued throughout the neighborhood. We have them along the perimeter, and we did not get the grant. This I have to be really clear. This project came from Beth Metza personally. It did not go. It has not been approved by the neighborhood association. It's not an official neighborhood association project. It is Beth Metza's project. And because she's so close to all of us and we've worked with her, I'm sure she will engage all of us, but I think her plan is to direct it and lead it and try to engage some neighborhood children in it and not rely on the neighborhood association to take it over.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I also sit on a neighborhood association, and the thing that associations lack on is supporting arts and getting art paid for by these mini grant opportunities. We had one that was funded in 2015, one project in our neighborhood, and it was eligible, and we got the funds for it through mini grant. I guess the direction I'm leading is I would like to see Beth's mural up, and I'd like to see another one of these tier 1 murals up as well. So I'm wondering how we could accomplish both of those tasks. So I think there are ways to fund these projects that Beth is promoting, and I love the idea that it would be community supported, but I also love some of the other mural proposals that are in tier 1. So I wonder, Beth, would you be interested in pursuing any type of grant through neighborhood associations?
Beth had to hop off to go to work.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Alder Gerlach, do you think that'd be possible?
Could I please respond to that?
Yeah.
Beth, we had applied for our mini grants. The deadline had come and gone before we had any inkling, and I say we, I'm talking about the board of directors of the neighborhood association, before we had any inkling that Beth was going to pursue this call for arts in the park. So, I guess what you're saying is, should we put it off until next year?
Yes, if we were going to pursue a mini grant to fund this one, that's what we'd have to do, yes. So that's a consideration.
I don't think that's unreasonable, Kent. Let's put it this way. If it isn't approved by the commission, and I'm the non-artist on this commission, if you folks who are the professionals don't approve this, then we absolutely will look at getting a mini grant for it next year. Sure.
I think my sense is that the value of the project has been demonstrated from all kinds of angles, and I think that there's appreciation for that. I think my sense is that it doesn't need to do anything special here. We just need to pick up where we left off. And hopefully some of the other folks that were a part of the conversation will join us as we move through this. I think actually just as we were disconnected, I was going to share that my impression of the Preble Park project specifically is that the value is clearly demonstrated. It's clearly a really great project. I guess my only question, and this might be more for Dan and Laura, is it seems to be just slightly a square peg in a round hole, in that it's not really a shelter project. It does require footings. It's different that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. What I'm asking is, does it change the integrity of the call process if allowances have to be made to accommodate a project that other artists have sort of met? Do you know what I mean? We ask for very specific technical specifications, and this one doesn't quite meet them. Again, not to devalue the project, only to state that in the interest of fairness, this is what we asked for.
I think that's, if you're asking me, I think that's a valid point you bring up, Kelly, in that I'm wondering if the call had been made in that way, if other artists would have presented in other public spaces, other public parks that don't have a shelter, if that was an option. We probably should have laid that out when we made the call. I mean, because I don't think we give that option right in the call documents that went out for artists. That the option was, if there isn't a park shelter, then you could maybe do something different. And let me say this, I love that project. So if it does not get funded, Lynn, we're going to work on figuring out how to do this somehow.
Listen, I think
The neighborhoods, right?
Kelly has a very good point, and I do think we have to weigh the request of a neighborhood association against the integrity of the project. And I do believe that it's our job as a commission to maintain the integrity of the project.
Thank you. So Kent, are you waiting?
Yeah, I just had a quick comment to make while we're on the topic. I think it's also really important to keep in mind flexibility when we do interpret what artists propose, because artists aren't always linear thinkers, and they may interpret a project slightly differently than how we intended it. However, the outcomes in regard to developing a portfolio of great public artwork in Green Bay may need to be a little bit flexible if we're going to accept great artwork and accommodate artists. So I just want to bear that in mind as we talk about project integrity.
That's fair. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. If it's okay with everyone, I'd like to return to the process of trying to narrow down these selections so that we actually conclude that by the time we wrap up this meeting here. Is there anything else that we need to talk about before I make the proposal I was going to make before? Just as a point of process.
Before you make any decisions, you will need to stop because Lisa is not back on the call and she's doing the recording. So just a moment.
Yes. So this isn't a decision. This is just getting feedback from the other commissioners. So we made the determination to, and I don't have the, oh, wait, I can get it up.
Do you want me to pull up the selections?
I would like
Yeah.
to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Laura.
In addition to that, while we were in our little coffee break time, since it was already kind of discussed, we want to spread out the opportunity. I had already kind of shaded out repeat artist submissions in the lower tier. So hopefully that can help us go along a little bit easier too. All right. Here we go. So yes, T3 from the top 10 was removed. These in tier 1 are all by the same artists that are already selected, along with these, which leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is perfect for filling our remaining slots. We just need to determine at that point, if you guys are okay with this, determining at that point which one moves up into the top 10.
So, and do these in this order reflect our scores? So did S4 of these 6 receive the highest score?
Correct. It went T1, S4, and then O2, and then I think it was another kind of sub-tier. And then it was like B1, E3, I2, R3.
So I would ask the commissioners, using the same logic that we use to select T2 over T3 for inclusion in the top 10, would you be willing to entertain the process of accepting S4 into the top 10 based on the fact that it received the highest ranking, or would you like to have further conversation? Which piece moves into that top 10 spot that's been vacated?
That sounds good to me, Kelly, the way you stated it. I think we should move forward based on the scores then.
Lynn or Chuck, did you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah, I have a question. The top 10 doesn't necessarily mean that there's only going to be 10, right? Because it depends on how many panels that we have, because we have a total of 15 panels. Is that correct?
Correct. Since we are going with plywood, 15 panels is going to be a safe estimate. So even though we have 5 runner-ups or this tier 1, realistically, we are most likely going to be able to do all 15.
So we know for sure we're doing 10, and there's the strong possibility that these additional 5 will be done as well.
Correct.
So Laura, is it important to you that we very stringently codify the 10 and the 5, or do we just know that these are the top 15?
I would say since you've moved S4 into the top 10, and then the remaining ones from tier 1 and tier 2 are the 5 remaining. I'm keeping 5 runner-ups in the instance that one of our top 10 artists is no longer able to participate or no longer interested for whatever reason. But realistically, we'll be able to do all 15.
Laura,
Great. Then do you need anything else from us on this in terms of selection?
What were you going to say, Dan?
I'm sorry, I just wanted a clarification as you're considering who to keep in the second tier. Is the artist for E1 and E3 the same artist?
E1, why is my brain not able to find this?
Flight Pattern, which is the 5th, and Loving the Land, which is...
Correct. So E1, E3, and E4, that artist placed in all 3 segments. That is the same artist.
So keep that in mind when you're selecting the second category.
Well, we've already done that because she shaded those out. So to my
Oh, I'm
mind, we're
sorry.
actually not considering those.
I didn't catch that. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. But do you see what she did with the
Yep.
PowerPoint? She sort of graded them out so they're
I do.
not in the mix. So then, Laura, I guess I go back to my previous question, which is what further decision do you need from us on this?
I think I just need the okay then that you are fine with these selections as they stand.
Great. So is who we were waiting for Lisa to return before we voted?
Yes, and I believe she is back on.
I have another question.
Maybe not. Ed.
I was for consideration that we were talking about. Are we all decided then on one panel for all these pieces of art for each one then? So that way, like B1 would be one panel, although the artist is going to purchase the secondary panel, so it would still count as just one. And A1 will just be one panel.
Correct. A1, T2, F1, and B1, I think we had all decided that they'll receive one panel.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
That would apply as well to the second tier R3. Looks like there are, those are very distinct.
So R3, that's a concept sketch of what they are proposing, but they had suggested one panel.
Okay. And then also Lisa is on, so you guys can vote. So we're all okay.
If you
Can I make a
entertain
suggestion
motion-
also? So my suggestion would be to accept the top 1 to 15 in order of priority. And I think we have those listed then based on our voting. That way, that would eliminate any confusion in which one comes next, given a budget shortcoming.
I would second that.
Great. Can someone make a motion to take a vote on accepting these 15 designs for the park shelter project?
I'll make that motion based on the priority that they were scored on.
I second that.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Dissension or abstention? Very good. Motion carries. All right. Let me get back to my agenda, guys. Informational, we have a finance report is the next item on the agenda.
Here is our July finance report. As you can see, looking at our block grant funds, we've expended this much on my position. The budget that we're working with to approve these 15 park shelters is in this 22,000 plus. For our jellyfish, he had some additional costs due to the pandemic, so he gave us an addendum budget, and that check, I believe, has been going out or is being cut, which means that we have, once we get the park shelters out of the way, we will be good on this year's block grant spending, which is good. And we're getting art out in the community. Our program, we have roughly $33 left from that art grant that we had applied for the rotating art program, but that is going to be used up for the plaques that are being put out at the sites. I have not received the invoice yet, but that will be totaling down to zero as well. Nothing has changed for our NEA shipyard underpass budget. For Embark, nothing has changed for that maintenance fund. And then in our Friends account fund with the Community Foundation, we have roughly 19,000 in that account and still 2,000 remaining in the bank. Stephanie, have I forgotten anything, or does anyone have any questions on the finance report?
The only thing is, I think you have a few artist payments that still need to come out, which you're using the Friends account for, if I'm correct?
Correct. Which was okayed at the previous PAC meeting.
Great. Any other questions or comments on the financial report? Terrific. Laura, your coordinator's report and project updates?
Yeah, so I will wrap this up quickly so that you guys can continue on with your day. But it's been a while since we met. I wanted to thank everyone who was able to come out and celebrate the jellyfish installation. I think it was well received and a great new addition to the downtown. And I'm very happy with how that project has turned out. So yeah, if you have not checked it out at night, definitely spend some time out there because it is wild.
And you had a great turnout for the unveiling. It was really nice to see a crowd spilling into the street.
Exactly. I think that's the most people I've seen at that point in time. That was the most people I've seen since everything kind of went haywire. So it was wonderful to see that many people outside and excited about art and talking and mingling. And yeah, it was great. In addition to that, well, not in addition, next on my list, we're working on the park shelter murals. Those are going to be continuing to, now that we've selected them, I'll continue through the process and keep you all updated as that project moves along. I'm also going to be this week finishing up an application for NEA ARPA funds. Since we are a local arts agency, we're eligible for a sub-granting grant. So I'm looking at applying for that. So hopefully we can get some more money and maybe get our annual grant program started up again. We'll find out about that. So the application closes the 2nd of August, and then we'll find out results roughly in November. So that's also happening. And then something that Kelly and I had talked about is discussion of moving to hybrid meetings. I know Kelly had expressed interest in doing hybrid meetings. Council is already meeting hybrid, I believe, which is basically where all of the commissioners, you would meet at City Hall like we used to, still be functioning through Zoom though, just together. But then having that opportunity for public to meet in person if they wish. Talking with Shelby.
Council chambers though, right, Laura?
Yeah, talking with Shelby, she's our IT specialist. They're working on setting up a framework to transition to hybrid meetings to like retrain, because we still have to do all of the recording and everything like that. So there's a little bit more involved. But I guess Kelly, we were interested in gauging the commission's interest in moving to hybrid, correct?
Yes, and I would say to the other commissioners that my personal feeling was less about, I thought that if there were an option, a virtual option, that we might see more participation and attendance at meetings from artists and community members. That's all.
Absolutely. I think even if we are in a position to move back to all in person, I don't see Zoom going away. Based off of the meetings that we've had through Zoom, we've had far more attendance from members of the public during these virtual meetings than when we met in person. So I think absolutely we would want to continue some sort of virtual element.
That's great. Yeah, I think having both options is a good move.
I agree with that too. It gives us more exposure, allows a lot of people to join in where they normally wouldn't come.
Awesome. I'm guessing that's going to be a IT department. Once they kind of get the framework set up, then we can start kind of transitioning back to a hybrid, not back to. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but I will keep you all in the loop as we move that direction. There's something else on my report, but my brain is a little frazzled. So that's my report.
Was it possibly about asking the commissioners to prioritize brainstorming some signature projects? Laura, you muted yourself.
You'd think a year plus I would be okay at this, but I guess not. Yes, that's exactly the other point. So I've been sharing out that art ideas menu with you guys, and a few of you have provided some wonderful ideas to include in that list. But I don't know, our meeting has been extended a little bit due to technical things today. But we were looking at doing kind of a mini brainstorming session to come up with those showcase projects that we can pitch to donors. So we can have projects kind of in the pocket, ready to go, and then just pitch, hey, we have this awesome idea ready to rock. We just need money. So I don't know if we want to do a brainstorming session today or make that an item for next meeting, since we've been going on for quite some time.
Laura, you don't have it noticed. So I would say you need to notice that in the meeting.
Okay.
Just set it out as part of your agenda.
Could we save it for a day where we know we don't have necessarily an action item, but so we have some time to
Just
share
set it
those
aside
ideas?
as a informational
Yeah.
public art brainstorming. Okay.
Yep.
I can do that.
You have a light agenda, that'd be good. Then that'd give you time to come up with a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah. Because I have a sense that our brains might all be a little deflated after all the selecting.
All righty then. So that's our coordinator's report. If there are no other questions or comments, reminder that our next meeting is August 25th. And we should all plan on attending virtually for that meeting, Laura, unless we hear otherwise.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. Very good. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. See you all soon.